Good afternoon. Welcome to the regular meeting of the Planning Commission for Wednesday, February 15th, 2012, 5 p.m. May I please have a roll call?
Planning Commissioners Astorian.
Here.
Lee.
Here.
Sheets.
Here.
Yesayan.
Here.
Chairperson Landrigan.
Here. Thank you very much. Will you please give us a report regarding the posting of the agenda?
The agenda for this meeting was posted on Wednesday, February 8th, 2012, on the bulletin board outside City Hall and on the city's website.
May we have the Pledge of Allegiance? Mr. Lee, would you like to lead it?
Sure. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Our next agenda item is approval of the minutes for February 1st, 2012.
I move that we approve the minutes from Wednesday, February 12th. February 1st.
Second, Mr. Astorian. All in favor?
Aye.
Abstain.
Mr. Chang Lee abstains.
Abstain.
So now we have oral communications. Oral communications is a discussion that is limited to items that are not part of the agenda, and each speaker is limited to 5 minutes. We may question speakers, but there's no debate or decision. But I do not have any oral communication cards. Do I have any? Seeing none, we will close oral communications. Item number 6, our zoning appeals. We have no new business, but our old business is 616 Whiting Woods Road, APN 5617-008-004, case number PVAR 2010-027. Who will be presenting? Mr. Baxter, is there going to be a presentation, or shall we just... All right.
Right, we've just presented what your direction was to provide motions, and that's what we've provided in your packet.
All right. Commissioners?
Madam Mayor, Madam Chair, I'm ready to make the motion.
I have a question. The condition saying a condition of approval will require the landscaping, screening, the walls, and fences shall be maintained for as long as they remain. So, as long as they remain is alluding to it means the walls and the fences, or it's talking about the vegetation.
This is condition number 6, sir?
Well, I think it's in
B.
A. It's also in C.
And it's in B.
And B.
It's the condition of approval. Let's go to A, for instance. Last sentence of A, that's finding A. The condition of approval will require that landscaping and screening, I should put the word of, the walls and fences shall be maintained as long as they remain. So it's the landscaping. The walls and fences, if they come up and down, that changes the whole characteristic of things. It's the landscaping. If the walls and fences remain, the landscaping has to stay there. Because that was part of the discussion that the board members looked at, is that these walls, you really can't see them because they're screened. And so if you go to condition number 6 of the motion, we had, as you recall, we had a discussion about that there should be screening and that the urban forester would be involved because there's such an extensive oak tree canopy out there. So that's what this is about. Really, condition number 6, I think, should drive the issue right here. Let's see if this one I wrote correctly. That the plant materials sensitive to oak tree environment shall screen the existing walls and fences in the street front and street side setback areas to the satisfaction Director of Community Development Department and the urban forester. Such materials shall be continuously maintained to the satisfaction of Director of Community Development Department. So that's what drives that. So if there's a question about that, look at that, and then we can alter that.
I'm okay with that.
All right.
Yeah.
So that's what that meant.
All right. Any other questions?
Oh, it's fine.
Yes?
Madam Chair, members of the Commission, yes, I think the matter might be resolved effectively if the word "they" is replaced with walls and fences. So there's no ambiguity as to whether or not "they" means the landscaping
I agree.
generally or
Yeah.
the walls and fences. So that would be a recommended
I think
modification.
that's a good recommendation. Do you feel
Could
comfortable
I
with
ask where
that?
that is, since we'd be implementing it?
It's on A.
Mandated
Oh, A,
findings,
yes.
A, the last
Well, A-
line.
Yes, yes,
B
yes.
A, B, and C.
Yes, okay. Yeah, it's probably repeated a couple of times,
Yeah.
because some of it's repetitive.
Wherever it occurs.
Okay, wherever it occurs, okay. I'll help staff check that out. So-
Thank you, Ms. Van.
So the motion
Meulen.
would be as amended per the discussion.
All right,
As the walls and fences remain.
Yes, 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 yes.
will the maker of the motion accept the amendment and the second?
Certainly do.
All right. Roll call, please.
I'll second it.
Yes.
Lee,
Abstain.
Sheets,
All right.
Yesayan,
Aye.
and Chairperson Landrigan.
Aye. The motion passes, and you may talk with the staff afterwards if you have any questions. Thank you very much. Our second
Thank you.
agenda item is item number 7. Old business, our new items are the tentative parcel map for Glendale number 1628, 216 Rimcrest Drive. Now, this has, Commissioners, this has been requested to be,
I request that this item be continued to March 7th, 2012. The applicant is making modifications to the project, and the case planner has recommended that this be continued.
however, we have a very large group of citizens who have come out to speak on this, and I would like to ask the Commission if we would be open to entertaining public comment without any presentation.
I'm certainly okay with that.
Second.
All right?
Let me just make a comment, and I don't know, I'm not for or against it. I think it's great that you're here, and I think you should speak if you want to. It's just that we don't have any information about the case. So in our position, you'll be speaking out of context. So that's fine. Just so you know that, I just wanted to inform you. We haven't done any research, we haven't read anything on it, so what you're speaking about will be brand new to us. So
Unfortunately, we can't carry on a dialogue. However,
that's the only thought I had.
Mr. Astor.
Yes, Madam Chair. If they do make their comments on, and I believe it's the Rimcrest case.
Right, it is.
Would this preclude them from, again, making comments when that case comes in front of us?
I think we'd like to ask Ms. Van Meulen.
Madam Chair, members of the Commission, that raises an interesting question, given that you don't have the information in front of you concerning the case. And my understanding is that the continuation has been requested because of modifications to that application, which have yet to be received and reviewed and processed for recommendation by the Planning Commission to you. So that is also important information for the public to be aware of, in that what they're making comments on, in fact, won't be the ultimate case or matter in terms of the substance of it that you will be reviewing. So while the public is here and can certainly make comments in this portion of the public hearing, which could be opened and closed, it would, and they're welcome to do so, and you can entertain those comments. I think it's important for all of those involved to consider the weight and value of those comments, given that the actual substance of the case has yet to be reviewed by you, and will be certainly different from information that they may have, that the public may have at this time. So you could close that public hearing. You would have to keep the public hearing open, and to the extent that there are modifications to that application, you could request that members of the public come and provide additional information and feedback and input to you. That should be balanced, of course, by the opportunity of the applicant to also have equal time. So that's what I would recommend for purposes of adhering to due process.
So clarification purposes, they are welcome back to make the comments on these cases, the people that was going to speak today.
They absolutely are welcome back. Yes.
And there will be a new package. There will be a package for the next meeting that will contain the case as it stands after the changes, which will be a public document and available to everybody.
And what the commission might request the public do at that time is to limit their comments to those pertaining to the new package of the package of information, which will be new to everyone at that point in time.
Provided if they make comments today.
Yes.
Right.
Correct.
So, fellow commissioners, I'm curious. We can ask one person to represent the neighborhood if they would like to comment today or to come back after they've seen the changes and hold their comments then.
How about show of hands?
All right, that's a great idea. You were going to say something.
I mean, if they're okay with it, but if we open it up, if they want to speak, they can still speak.
If we decide to open it up, which seems that we are open to doing that.
Okay.
Can we have a show of hands? You've heard what our city attorney has said. Right now, you will be giving us your opinion on an item that is in the process of being changed. We haven't seen it, and you all have not seen it. You are welcome to make your testimony today, and we'll give you 3 minutes each. However, when it returns, you are also welcome to come back and giving us testimony based upon the changes. And since I respect the fact that many people take off work to come here, we are, I would say, generally very open to having you do this. So if you would like to present tonight, we will raise your hand. I think that's a good showing of hands. So we will open the public hearing on tentative trap map number 1686 for 2116 Rimcrest Drive. Is the timer working?
Yes.
All right, so I will give you all 3 minutes apiece, and we will start with Budan Gaganian. Please come up and give your name, and he needs a translator. Is there someone who can, do you have somebody who can translate for Mr. Gaganian here?
I am living 25 years.
Please
Please come up. I can't translate.
English isn't that bad.
I got many volunteers.
All right.
Ուրեմն ես կարծեմ ամենահին այստեղի ներկաների բնակիչն եմ Glendale-ի 1987 թվականից ապրում եմ Glendale-ում նույն թաղում նույն փողոցում նույն բնակարանը
He's one of the oldest residents on the street. He's been living there since 1987 in or about.
Ուրեմն մեզ բախտ վիճակվեց կանք Glendale որովհետև երազում ենք կնոջս հետ 1984 թվին First Intercept բանկար ընդեղից մենք այդ հողամասը մեր բնակարանի վերցրում Երեք րոպե շուտ կվերջանա այո Ինչ որն է մենք բնակարանը կառուցեցինք JCC մի հատ ընկերություն էր որի համար շատ գոհ ենք հիմա իմ խնդրանքս ինչ է Ես եկել եմ 35 տարի Ամերիկա, չար աշխատել եմ, փառք Աստված, շատ գոհ եմ, God bless America, որ ասում են։ Հիմա թոշակի ենք անցած։ Ամբողջ կյանքս աշխատել եմ, ամեն ինչ արել եմ, կյանքումս ոչ փոլիս, ոչ դատարան, ոչ տիկետ, ոչ բան չունենք։ Հիմա մեր ձերությունը մի քանի տարի ունենք։ Լսեցի, որ ինչ որ ուզում են շինարարություն անեն, եւ այդտեղ ես գիտեմ շինարարությունը ինչ է նշանակում։ Շինարարություն նշանակում է աղմուկ, մեքենաներ, տրակտորներ, նույնիսկ բայթում։ Մենք ես ուրիշ մեր հասակներ են կան մեր։ Մենք հիմա այս տարիքին չպիտի կարողանանք դիմանանք այդ աղմուկին, այդ բայթումներին, այդ մեքենաներին։
Good luck.
Good luck.
Basically, this old fine gentleman is saying that I have been living here for 35 years. God bless America. I've worked hard, never had a ticket, law-abiding citizen and stuff. Basically, he's trying to enjoy his golden years now, and he says we all of a sudden heard there's going to be a big construction there, trucks, this and that. So it's going to basically interfere with their lifestyle. They're not going to be able to endure the nuisance and all that stuff. So pretty much he's really, really worried about the construction going on there.
Ես ուրիշ շատ ունեմ դեր շատ խոսալու, բայց ժամանակ ունեմ դեր։ Եթե ունեմ կարող եմ ասեմ։
He's asking if he has...
Ես մի երկու խոսք էլ ասեմ։
He can,
Մենք հիմա հանգիստի բեկություն ունենք, մենք ուզում ենք մեր աշխատանքի դիմաց ինչ որ մեզ մեր բդությունը դվեց, նորից եմ գրկնում, շատ գոհ ենք, ուզում ենք վայելենք խաղ, հանգիստ մեր երեխաներով, մեր թոռներով։ Հիմա եթե շինարարություն լինի, մենք արդեն հիվանդ ենք։ Թող հարցնեն, շաբաթը մի անգամ, երկու անգամ անպայման շտաբօգնություն գուքամ։ Ոչ թե միայն ինձ համար, ուրիշ մեծահասակներ էլ կան։
He's sick. He has illness. He says quite often, few times a month, ambulance comes by. So possibly that ambulance may not have access there because of the construction and stuff. He wants to have a peaceful retirement years, and he says it's just going to completely ruin it.
Վերջի երկու բառն էլ ասեմ։
Sure.
Ուրեմն, երբ որ մենք շինարարություն արեցինք, մեզ ասեցին, որ այդ դիմացի սարի վրա ոչ մի կառուցելու իրավունք չկա։ Եվ մենք մտածեցինք ամենախաղաղ դերն ենք ապրում Glendale-ի։ Փակ փողոց է, no outlets։
When we constructed our own house back in the years, they told us that there's not going to be any construction on that hillside. So one of the primary reasons we built there because we wanted a peaceful neighborhood. And now all of a sudden this thing is going
Եվ փակ փողոց է, մեքենաներ չեն ասում, միայն մեր
And it's
բնակիչներն
a
են։
cul-de-sac street, there are no cars driving by.
Դա էր պատճառը հիմնական, որ մենք պայքարեցինք եւ ընկել դուն։ Հիմա այս մեր դարիքին այդքան աղմուկ, այդքան շինարարություն, oh my
The primary
God։
reason we bought the house that we built there is because of the neighborhood. It's a
Ես չեմ ուզում Glendale-ից հեռանամ։ Glendale-ը Ամերիկայի լավագույն քաղաքներից է, ես հբարդ եմ, որ Glendale եմ ապրում։
thank you very much. We really, I think we got your message. Thank you very much. Next in line would be Arthur and Helena Hagesian.
Need a translator?
No. We basically want to keep this very short. I guess we'll come back the next hearing and we'll see what the changes are going to be. But as you can tell, the entire neighborhood is here. Everybody is opposed to the project, regardless of the modifications to be made. We're completely opposed to it. I am a new resident of that street. We just bought our house a year ago. As a gentleman said, one of the primary reasons we purchased a house on that street is because it's a peaceful neighborhood, okay, cul-de-sac, no properties on that hillside, okay, and this construction, it's going to entail a building of 2 properties on that hillside, which is right across from my property. It's going to involve tremendous amount of construction, tractors, bulldozers, and all that stuff, not for a month, not for a year, years to come. It's going to inhibit ingress, egress to the property. There's not going to be parking spaces. We're concerned about the liability. It's going to destroy all the trees. We have 2 small kids who often play in the backyard, and it's going to be an attractive nuisance for the kids. We're going to be spending more time taking care of them and being careful, perhaps even hiring a nanny to do that. And then another thing I'm really, really concerned about is I think this is being built under the guise of a Rimquist property because the property owner is a Rimquist resident. It's a Rimquist property, but he's trying to have access to Aspen Oak, which basically means building a property on Aspen Oak. There's going to be concerns about landslides because, I mean, you just have to be there, you just have to see the street to have an idea what we're talking about. There's also going to be a lot of laborers there, and everybody goes to work, comes back, and we don't know, I mean, if these people are going to be checking on who leaves what time and whatnot, because we already have some theft issues, robbery issues on that street, so this is going to add an additional concern to that. Again, the street has a very, very aesthetic value. I mean, it's just going to completely destroy it. And I'll let my other neighbors add some of the other stuff. We also submitted a written objection to this. Hopefully, it has been already received. And we're just going to keep on coming back and coming back and coming back. We're going to make this really, really difficult. Nothing personal against the applicant. We already told them. But, hey, you have a nice property there. Keep it there. If you want to construct it through Rimcrest, construct it. Don't come to our street. There's only 13 properties. All of them are against it. And we're going to be here during every meeting until he gives up. I'll let the rest...
Excuse me, sir. Will you please state your name for the
My
record?
name is Arthur Ilengis, and I'm the owner of property 130 Aspenoak Lane.
Thank you.
Madam Chair, can I make a comment?
Mr. Hagesian, would you mind coming back for a question, please?
Yeah, it's not a question. I just want to make a comment, and it's not to diffuse any of your energy. If you're going to make the exact same comments, we get it, and we'd appreciate that, taking that in consideration as we move forward. We understand, we're getting the message. If it's going to be the exact same comment, maybe you could give us a break, but if it's beyond that, feel free.
We also have an expert.
It's fine. That's great. It was just my comment.
Sure.
All right. Next, we have Charles Santos.
Hi. My name is Charles Santos. I'm a land planner, and my office is in Agora Hills. I was hired by my client, Stefan Martrosian, who owns 120 Aspenoak Lane. I've done land use consulting and permit processing in City of Malibu, City of Los Angeles, LA County, some in Glendale. And I've taken a look at the project. I know you don't have the project information and the history, but essentially it's an existing residence. It's a 2-acre parcel with an existing residence on Rimcrest Drive. They're proposing to subdivide the property into 3 lots and build 2 additional homes. Based on some preliminary research I've done, this area was subdivided in the 80s, and obviously the lots were cut. The roads were designed, the drainage devices were designed for, so many homes for, so many resources and uses. And looking at this, it's a really steep hillside, and building in this area it wasn't designed for this. This place was already subdivided and built out. And they're kind of trying to sneak in 2 additional lots, which is obviously a great investment opportunity for someone who wants to put in 2 homes in a nice hillside. But it really is a nuisance for this community. I've met with the neighbors. I've visited with them and talked to them about their concerns, and many of the concerns are similar, almost identical, similar to what Arthur just presented. A lot of it has to do with the grading, the amount of grading that's going to be taking place. I looked at the numbers, and I don't know if they're going to change, but based on 2,700 yards of export, that's close to 340 truck trips. That's a lot of trucks going up and down that road. And I know a lot of times when you do that amount of activity, the roads really never get repaired again. They get pretty much tracked up, beat up, and they stay that way until there's city revenue to come back and fix them. There's also going to be a lot of potential noise pollution, dust pollution. A lot of the owners have children. They play in the street. It's a cul-de-sac street. Probably won't be able to be out front of the house when you have this amount of work and activity going on. And yeah, those are basically the biggest concerns. Is that this project is not an environmentally sound project and probably should not be built in this area.
Madam Chair, I have a question.
Please.
So you're a soils engineer, or you're
I'm a land planner.
a land planner? I am just curious because we don't have the the project in front of us. But why is people from Oak Lane complaining when this is on Rimcrest?
Can I show something to you?
Sure. But if,
We,
If you present it, then we keep it.
we keep it.
right. That's the whole thing.
You can show it from where you are, man.
You're welcome to describe it.
Describe.
You know, it's part of that the letters that the neighborhood submitted. But basically, the lot. This is Rimcrest Drive right here.
Uh-huh,
That's Mill Lane.
right.
The existing residence is off of Rimcrest Drive. However, the property is a long rectangular lot.
Ah,
Fronts, most of the property fronts Aspen Lane. So they're proposing to create two lots.
Oh, excuse me, I'll have to
He
speak.
can't hear you.
Gotta be by the
Talk
mic.
into the mic.
If you could stand on the...
They're proposing
yeah.
to cut the lot and create two additional lots that front Aspen Oak Lane. So the owner is sitting up here on Rimcrest Drive, and then down below him on Aspen Oak Lane, he will build two additional homes,
So the access of the new development would be from the...
Aspen Oak Lane. He really has no impacts from the development because he's up on Rimcrest Drive, yet Aspen Oak Lane neighbors will suffer from from that amount of earthwork and grading and construction.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions for Mr. Santos? Thank you, we did receive this.
Thank you.
Neelish Desai, Dr. Desai,
Thank you for the opportunity.
would you, I'm sorry, it's customary to introduce yourself when you're at the microphone again.
So I'm Nilesh Desai, and I live on Aspen Oak Lane, 132 Aspen Oak Lane, and I have the bragging right of being the longest living member on Aspen Oak. We bought the property in 1982. We developed and built it, and when we bought the property, we were told that city is not going to subdivide anything. The houses are always going to be on the one side of the street. And our house was the fourth house built on that hill. Everything was vacant. And as Santos said, the hill is very steep on Aspen Oak, and they want to cut and make an entry from Aspen Oak to their property. There will be tremendous amount of traffic, dust, the noise, the pollution, which Arthur has already alluded to, and health hazard to the elderly people with the dust and everything. So I'm really concerned about it. This project is, the plot up there on the Rimcrest is R1 residence. Why are we even talking about dividing into R3 lots and build on the two? I think this is not going anywhere. I come from the land of Mahatma Gandhi, and if I have to tie myself for civil disobedience, I'll be there. And I'll be here with Arthur on every meeting. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. Tanya Mata.
Hi, good evening. My name is Tanya Mata. My husband and I are the owner of the property at 140 Aspen Oak Lane. I have 3 children. They're always playing on their bicycle out in the front yard. I've heard of bad accidents of children being run over by cars. It makes me very uncomfortable knowing that there's going to be construction out there. The house that is going to be built based on the plans that have been submitted is going to be exactly across the street from our house. And the driveway will be pretty much coming right up front of our house. Our bedrooms are facing that way. It's going to take away from our privacy. We're always walking around with all the windows open. We are very concerned about that too. It's dangerous. I'm concerned about landslides and more water being sent our way if there's any rain, because the concrete will not absorb the rain once the house is built. Now the earth is absorbing it. It's going to pretty much hit our property. And the other thing is we had theft, and my car was broken into in my garage right before Christmas, and I had spent 3 days Christmas shopping. All my Christmas gifts were gone. So it's been a very unsafe neighborhood, and with the amount of construction and the people working on the street, I believe it's going to get even worse. So I am really, really concerned about theft. Our neighbor's house was broken into, and 2 neighbors down the street, her car was broken into in her garage, and her car remote was stolen too. garage door remote. So that's one of the things. And the one thing I do have for you, I don't know if you have the answer for it. With these new properties' addresses, would it be Aspen Oak Lane or Rimcrest? Do you know?
Don't even know, we don't have any information.
You don't know.
We have what you have.
And honestly, I'm sorry? And honestly, the people that are, presenting the project are not going to be bothered by it because it's going to be so far away from their property. We are the only one that's going to be bothered by all the pollution, the construction, and all that. So they have nothing to lose. For them, it's a win-win situation. So it really doesn't make sense to us why they're proposing this. Anyway, thank you very much for your time.
Yeah, may I make a
for
comment? The project before us is talking about address on Rimcrest. I'm assuming that access is going to be from the Rimcrest. That's why I was wondering why.
What they presented to us, it showed where the driveways are, and they showed that the driveways are coming from Aspen Oak.
Like I said, I don't know. I don't have the information. But you know what? Some of the other speakers were talking about having somebody telling them that there will be no developments in the area. You have that in writing, or?
Well, I think one of our neighbors is going to research it and try to contact GCC. Is that what you said? And try to get it maybe by the next hearing. Yeah. And I want to say one more thing. The owners of the people that are presenting the plans were complete liars. They came to our houses. They knocked on our doors.
Order, Madam
yes,
Chair. Madam Chair, point of order. If I may, and the speaker is done, I guess, right?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. You don't have anyone here. We do not like maligning individuals who are not present. So
Okay.
thank you very
I
much.
apologize. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for your input.
Commissioner Stoyer.
Yeah, my concern at this time, Commissioner Chang and the rest of us, I don't want you to abnegate your right to make comments, relinquish your rights to make comments. I just don't know if that would prejudice us in making comments about something that we don't know.
I know nothing about
So it is my opinion, and I'm known to have wrong opinions in the past. It is my opinion that if we refrain from making comments and just absorb what they are saying, they have questions as far as their clarifications, it's okay. But just so that we will not prejudice ourselves as commissioners for the next go-around.
But thank you for the comment, Commissioner Stoyan. I will try to refrain myself.
Abnegate.
All right. Any other comments from our commissioners? Mr. Sheets?
And I just need to clarify. If I read the project description, it's a request to subdivide one lot. So, at the risk of upsetting the people here to speak about building this structure, we're not. The comments I'm hearing from you have nothing to do with subdivide. I know that it's leading to what you're talking about, but we're here to decide whether the subdivision should go forward. And I'm giving you my thoughts. I'm making an assumption, and that's kind of where my head's going now, because I know the people that live there are very unhappy about what the potential is. But not only do I think I know we're not going to fix that tonight, I don't even know if we're going to address that in the next hearing, because we're talking about subdividing. So I guess I just want to share that with the public that's here, and if I already have questions about subdivision, and that's where my mind is going now, because that's what our task is here as Planning Commission. I'm not going to address construction, size of house, construction tasks, and any of that. So I don't know if that affects anybody else sitting here, but.
Well, I think that Commissioner Sheets, that we've opened the hearing. We'd like to have input.
I understand.
I think that I'm glad that you clarified it for the citizens out here so they can focus on what our determination is going to be, and then that 3 minutes, if they stray, we will be tolerant of it.
Not a problem.
All right. Any other speakers here? Ms. Stotler, anything?
I have no other cards.
All right, I still have some cards.
Okay. Yeah, we don't have any other comments on it, other than the fact that I I would note, too, that as part of this proposal, there is a notice of intent to adopt a negative declaration, so there is an environmental review that is on file related to this. I would just let you know that some members of the audience may be interested in that document as well. So it's not only on the subdivisions, it's also, the testimony could also be on the environmental document.
Has the environmental document, it will come to our review also.
Yes, it's out for public review, and it will go before you.
All right, so members of the audience, you may address us about the subdivision and the environmental documents, which is what will be under our purview, and that would be most helpful for us. I now have Ara Isaac Drian.
Ma'am, he's going to pass. He's going to let me speak instead. You have my card there, too. Steve Iskandarian.
Steve Iskandarian. Iskandarian, thank you.
Like in
Please
Cam's.
forgive me.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Steve Iskandarian. First and foremost, I want to thank all of you for your time and your patience to hear all of us and to allow us to put a face to the name and the address here. And thank you for your service to our city. We have lived on Aspenoak Lane for about 20 years. We used to have 2 homes there. We actually sold the 130 Aspenoak Lane to our new neighbor, Arthur. Me and my family have lived in Glendale pretty much our whole lives. We moved to Aspenoak Lane around 1985, and we love it there. And I'm with everyone else, and I was shocked, actually, when I saw the sign, because I would never have expected that to happen, and it just didn't feel good. And before I get into anything, before I forget, I would like to ask you if you would please let us know what this process is like, meaning, how long will it take? What can we do? What can we not do? What should we expect? If you can just briefly tell us that before we all leave, I think it would be very helpful to all of us. Anyway, me and my family own and operate 2 restaurants now called Zanku Chicken here in Glendale. And we've been doing business in Glendale for over 20 years. We will do our best to stop this from happening. And thank you very much for your time.
Thanks for your input.
Thank you. And I'll ask staff to do that when we're through with the public hearing here. I have another Escondaria. Yes. And if I'm murdering your name, please forgive me.
My name is Ara Iskandarian, and I've also been living on Aspenoak Lane for 20 years. And when I saw the plan, and this is kind of pertaining, I bet, to environmental, it just didn't seem feasible that it would be possible to build on such a slope. And anybody who ever drove there and saw the landscape, I mean, anybody who ever took any classes at any college, geology classes, they'll say it's hazardous, to say the least. And that's what made me worry the most when I saw it. And I just want to say that I'm voting against it. And I'm very happy to see that everybody is here to support me from my neighborhood. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Dekron? Oh, Dekron Iskandarian?
Hello, how are you? My name is Dekron Iskandarian. I live at 114 Aspenoak Lane. Been living there for 20 years. Thank you for hearing us out today. What I am here to say is, you asked the question, should we say yes or no about the subdivision? I would say to vote no on the subdivision for this property, for this development you see. And like you guys said, you're going to be hearing more about it later. Why not? Well, us as a neighborhood, we're always supporting each other. And when we see each other doing any remodeling or something, we're very supportive and we're very friendly as a neighborhood. But these individuals that live on Rimcrest did not tell us about this, first of all. Second of all, why are we opposing it? Because I've been living there, like I said, 20 years. We have never, ever seen anyone in our neighborhood do anything like what they are proposing right now. Environmentally wise, I can tell you that we've planted cactuses on this area that they're talking about 20 years ago that are still growing today. Deer are always walking around and eating flowers at this area that since 20 years ago. And we're always supporting each other, but no one has ever done anything like tearing into the hill and creating properties for profit. No one has ever done that before in our neighborhood. That is why you're hearing such an emotional kind of outpouring today that you're seeing, and shock and anger and stuff like that. Why? Because we have never ever seen anything like this before. It is unprecedented for anyone in our neighborhood to even suggest something like this. So in regards to zoning and such, no. In regards to environmental, completely destroying the environment and the nature and the hill and the mountaintop. That is part of what makes Glendale beautiful. And I'm sure one of the many reasons many of these people are here today is that's part of the reason why they brought their homes. It's the beautiful view, it's the peace, it's the deer, it's the birds. And we always come together, like I said, and support each other. But something like this is unprecedented and selfish to the other residents of the neighborhood for them to suggest to do. Now, I'm sure we're going to come back and see the details and whatnot. But I can tell you that you guys here, sitting here today, have an awesome responsibility. And that responsibility rests with you. It can end in a peaceful, kind of, smart way. But I can tell you another thing is that a lot of these people behind me are peaceful and smart people, but they're also resilient people that I don't see this kind of ending. If it doesn't end, ending like that, it could easily go into a civil matter or, whatnot. But we don't want that to happen. So thank you very much for your time and for everything that you do, like my brother said. Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a great day and a great weekend, too.
Thank you very much. And Vartkes, is that carrying?
I believe my concerns have been addressed by everybody behind me, and out of respect for the council, I would just withhold my comments until the next hearing. And I just want to thank you for your time and everything you've done for us.
Would you, excuse me, would you please state your name for the record?
Sorry.
Thank you.
Varkas Iskandarian.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. So now I'll close the public hearing.
No.
I can't.
You don't want to
I'm
close.
leaving it open.
You want to, yes, you do not want to close the public hearing. You want it to remain open and continue it to a date certain
All right,
on
that's
March
what we want to
7th.
do. All right. We will do that. May I have a motion from one of the commissioners to make a motion to continue this item to March?
I want to continue the item to March 7th, 2012, at the regular Planning Commission meeting without further notice.
I make a motion to continue this item to March
7th.
2012.
At the regular Planning Commission
At the
meeting.
regular Planning Commission meeting without further notice.
I second.
All right. May I have roll call, please?
Planning Commissioners Astorian.
Yes.
Lee.
Aye.
Sheets.
Aye.
Yesayan.
Yes.
Chairperson Landrigan.
Aye. May I ask, is there a planner still here who can take our guests out and give them a general idea of what should happen? Or can we do that right now before we go to the next item?
Would you like to take a short recess?
Yes, we'll take a short recess, and the planning staff will tell you what the process is.
Thank you all for being here.
They did a good job.
You guys just hear people complain all the time.
All right, thank you. All right, good night.
We're back on.
We're back on.
Are we back on? We're back here for the meeting of the Planning Commission for Wednesday, February 15th. And our next agenda item is going to be, I have to find my agenda, sorry. Wrong agenda. Is the Greener Glendale Plan for Community Activities. And that will be presented by Cassandra Pruitt.
So good evening, Chair Landrigan and Commissioners. I'm pleased to present to you the second and final component of the Greener Glendale Plan. And this one addresses community activities, or how the City of Glendale can help the community of Glendale be more sustainable. And by sustainable, I mean able to sustain ourselves into the future by addressing environmental, social, and economic concerns. So the Greener Glendale project is grant funded, and it's being done to comply with state conservation efforts, including AB 32, the California Global Warming Solutions Act, and SB 375, the California Sustainable Communities and Climate Protection Act. And both of those mandate reductions in greenhouse gas emissions, or GHGs as I'll call them. So essentially, the Greener Glendale Plan is a catalog of potential community conservation programs that we can pursue, and the document will basically help us apply for grant funds so that we can fund our existing programs and pursue additional conservation programs. City Council indicated their support for this project by adopting on November 9, 2010, a resolution to address sustainability and climate change. And they also adopted the United Nations Urban Environmental Accords as a framework for our long-term sustainability efforts. On November 1st, 2011, they adopted the first component of the Greener Glendale Plan, which addresses internal government operations. So the second component of the Greener Glendale Plan, addressing how the city can help the community be more sustainable. This has been an ongoing effort since December 2010. That's when we started our initial community outreach, and that community outreach continued into this year. The community outreach consisted of one-on-one interviews, online and in-person surveys, presentations at community events, and 2 open house workshops. We also worked with large and small businesses and schools to include their efforts in the plan. In addition, we worked closely with the city departments to ensure that any conservation programs that the city was already looking into or already had going on or was already planned, that those were all included in the document. So in the next few slides, I just want to highlight some of these existing community conservation programs, because that's what is in the Greener Glendale Plan, and that's what we want to build on. So Glendale Water and Power, as you know, implements a variety of energy and water conservation programs, including implementing the smart grid, increasing our renewable energy portfolio, and administering numerous public benefit programs that educate and provide incentives to the community to use conservation. The Public Works Department has long-term ongoing efforts to reduce waste and also reduce the emissions from the landfill. They continue to provide alternative transportation infrastructure, and they're also implementing conservation measures in the urban forestry and stormwater management infrastructure. The Community Development Department accomplishes environmentally friendly land uses in the city. It oversees a variety of community education and outreach programs through the Neighborhood Services Division, and these include the Litter Prevention and Reduction Program, Stormwater Pollution Prevention Program, and the Fresh Air Program. Community Development also provides community gardens, a farmer's market, and it promotes eco-friendly development that preserves nature and open space and promotes healthful urban environments. The Community Services and Parks Department helps connect those in Glendale to nature through the provision of natural and recreational open space, and it also practices conservation in its development and maintenance of the facilities and parks. The Fire Department helps encourage environmental health in the city by reducing toxics. It does this through the administration of the household hazardous waste collection events. It also disincentivizes the storage and use of toxics in the city, and it repurposes the collected paint for anti-graffiti programs. It also helps protect the urban forests by promoting fire-safe planting practices. The Information Services Department helps promote all these green programs through the Greener Glendale website and also the city's website. And Management Services helps promote these programs through the media, GTV6, and Twitter. So, mostly due to all of these conservation programs, the community has actually achieved significant reductions in greenhouse gas emissions, a 7% reduction during the years that we inventoried, and water consumption. It achieved a 17% reduction during the years that we inventoried. So these conservation efforts bring us very close to being in line with regional GHG reduction targets. And the additional programs listed in the Greener Glendale Plan would help us meet and exceed those targets. This shows you the breakdown of the red is our existing or planned efforts, the Greener Glendale Plan, and then these additional clean car and fuel standards, those are actually state regulations that are outside of the control of the city. So the Greener Glendale Plan is composed of a multitude of conservation programs that are broken down into these different environmental topic areas. And as a reminder, programs would only be pursued if we got grant funding. As I mentioned, we work with schools and businesses in the community to ensure that we included their own conservation efforts within the plan. And this included large businesses, including several commercial office buildings that have LEED certification, and also small businesses. These are a couple maps showing a sample of participants at the two open house workshops. And the ideas and content that were presented at the second open house workshop were based on months and months of community outreach. And so the feedback that we got from that event actually did not contain any new programs that were not already in the plan, and it reinforced what was in the plan. The workshops were conducted in an interactive style that encouraged participation from the community, and at the second workshop we had the different environmental stations were staffed by experts in those topics, for example, energy, water, waste, transportation. So this allowed great networking opportunities between community members and the staff, and also between staff from different departments who were all working on the larger sustainability goal. So the recommendation from staff is that Planning Commission recommend the adoption of the Greener Glendale Plan for community activities to City Council. And if you have any questions or comments, happy to address them.
Mr. Lee.
Yeah, hi, Cassandra. I think Glendale was involved with the LA County in developing some sort of a program, electric vehicle program, EV program, which is throughout the country. They're preparing infrastructure in the city. Other cities such as Pennsylvania, Chicago has already done that, and I think Glendale, some staff from the city of Glendale also participating in the program with LAEDC and LA County people to do that. I don't see any mention of that program in this report. Have we stopped pursuing that avenue? Because I believe EV is a big part of greener should be greener Glendale program. It contributes to reducing the carbon footprint. So I just want to find out where we are with the EV program.
We've definitely not stopped working on that effort. We're still continuing to attend the LAEDC meetings, and the transportation section of the document is broken down into 4 basic objectives, and 2 of those objectives are to provide infrastructure and to encourage the use of alternative transportation forms, basically. And there is some discussion of this LAEDC effort. For example, in T4A,
What page is that page?
this is page 71. It discusses administering a promotion and education campaign to encourage citizens to purchase and use alternative fuels such as hybrid electric, biodiesel, CNG, etc. And within the implementation actions, it talks about our work with the Los Angeles Economic Development Corporation's Electric Vehicle Working Group. And it's also mentioned in T3C, which is at the top of that page, coordinating with adjacent municipalities to foster regional infrastructure for alternative fuel vehicles. So this is definitely alive. We're still working on it and interested in moving forward with that effort.
But we have not developed any incentive programs, specific incentive programs as of yet.
The only incentive program that I know of, GWP has a rebate that residents can get for installing an electric vehicle charging meter.
Station, yeah.
And that information's on their website.
And as far as the city is concerned, the establishing infrastructure for the EV owners after they leave home, if they need to charge it in the public, is there something that's been considered?
I don't have any current information on that. I just know that they've been attending these workshops and that it's definitely on their radar and they're looking into it. I don't know of any decision or plans that have been made yet.
Okay.
Commissioner Storian, you wanted to say something?
Yeah, one comment. Your PowerPoint says, please replace the lamp. Make sure that it is make sure that it's green lamp and you would use less energy. Next presentation.
LED lamp?
We better start at home, right? Charity begins at home. I do have, but first of all, I have to congratulate you for having put together a comprehensive and, more importantly, decipherable, understandable report. I was making comments about that prior to the meeting to Chair Landrigan. And I do have 2 questions for my edification. Number 1, in your Appendix A, your first page, where we speak about the community profile, there is a mention that the population of Glendale in 2009 was 195,000, and that we are at 194,000, and perhaps the rest of them were here, 194,000 in the chat were here tonight. But my question to you is as follows. I know that the Bureau of Labor Statistics gives us a population today of Glendale of 191,000. And there was an extended time that we, whether through attrition or whatever, we dropped from the 200,000 number that SCAG had and so forth. Does this report change in any way because of the reduction in the population, because of the less carbon footprint, so to say, in the city?
Well, the inventory years for this report are 2004 and 2009.
I see.
And the population decrease shown by the census was in the 2010 census.
Okay.
So I don't have any information that would
Got it.
justify changing these numbers.
Very good. So the second question is the HDD and the CDD. This is very intriguing for me. The heating day degrees and cooling day degrees. Now, in 2004, we had 2008 hitting day degrees, and in 2009, 5 years later, we had 2038. This is remarkably consistent, isn't it? When you consider global warming and when you consider use of energy as the weather warms and so forth, the number 2008 and 2038, that's about 30 units, and I believe you have to divide that by 5 to be able to get the cooling. That's remarkably consistent. And if somebody knows a little bit more about this to explain to us, I'd love to know a little bit more about this HDD and the CDD. That's the other comment that I have. And then in your presentation, I'm sorry, I'm on a roll. You mentioned the reach out regiment that you had for small businesses, and I only saw 3 business names in there: Jay's Maintenance, the Spa, and I missed the other one. What are we doing in educating small business, whether or not we're using the Board of Realtors, the Chamber of Commerce to get the message across, the savings, the incentives, and so forth? And that would be also a suggestion that I would have. If there are plans available that small businesses can take advantage of, same way that our residents have, I think we should be able to, really drive the point home.
Is it all right if I make one point of clarification on that? The list of small businesses, the list of all of these businesses, these were just the businesses who responded to our invitation to participate in the Greener Glendale Plan. There were actually many more small businesses who had taken advantage of Glendale Water and Power's rebate programs to do energy efficiency and water conservation upgrades. So I would say this list doesn't represent all the green businesses in the community. It's just we did an initial outreach effort, and these were the people who responded.
Thank you.
Right. Commissioner, you say it.
Well, I have some comments. And
we were expecting you to have comments.
But, I have to compliment again to Cassandra because she's so good about replying back really quickly and putting this whole thing together. So, I've been talking to her on and off the last couple of weeks as she's been putting this together, and I was at the outreach meeting, which was great. You know how it's like a list of recommendations and it goes through different sectors. So my general comment is, how is this being? I know it's mostly a funding issue for a lot of these items that are being recommended, and it's really not like a policy document, as we talked about, I know, recently, but it's more like general recommendations that this is like a foundation to the city can do later on. Is there like a priority, or how are these going to be prioritized? And I guess it is based on funding, but to me, looking at just all these lists of recommendations, it's a little bit overwhelming, first of all, for me. And then second of all, I don't understand as far as like a timeline of how it's going to be implemented or how it's going to be expected. And that's my kind of general overall question, my first one.
Do you want me to respond to each comment?
Well, I want to hear about that one.
Okay.
Yeah.
On that, I would say I see what you mean. There are hundreds of programs listed in this document.
Yeah.
Where do we begin? So on page 9, there is a final priority list that's based on which programs are most effective in reducing greenhouse gas emissions and which programs the community expressed as being most important. And those considerations were kind of pooled together, and we came up with this final priority list. That would be, if we got funding to pursue these programs, we would be looking at the priority list, and there's a next steps chapter or page that talks about
Where's the next steps?
It's the very last one before the appendix.
After or before the? Yeah.
Page 76. And I believe it's also discussed in the cross-cutting chapter, but basically what's said is that we would have some kind of community group that would help advise staff on which measures we would address first. So that would kind of help.
So it's basically kind of just laying out everything, and then the next thing will be get a committee together, which I think is one of the recommendations too, like an ad hoc group of people, if there's funding for that.
Right. Now,
I guess that would be the next step, to put something like that together, and then they would prioritize all this list of recommendations in this document. Is that how?
right, we want to get funding, and then we would pursue those. And in the meantime, there are a lot of programs in here that the city's already working on or already studying, so those will be moving forward. Those are, practically speaking, the most priority, because they're already, there's already been some overhead invested in them, and they're already kind of moving.
I got it. Okay. Just some comments that I had listed on my iPad. Let's see.
Show up.
Let's see if it worked. Okay. First, I really like the permeable paving that's been put into this. I didn't see any mention like parking lots or stuff like that, or maybe experimenting on that. Is that what it's talking about, or can we maybe find ways of maybe putting it in low traffic? Because I know it's not maybe you're not able to do permeable paving in a lot of high traffic areas, but maybe experimenting in low traffic places and then maybe parking lots and including that in some way. I know it's strategy WT5B, page 66 has that. So maybe that's just the broad way of saying it, but maybe just including something like that where it could be used for working with the transportation department to look into innovative ways of doing that.
I can't think off the top of my head what the issue is about parking lots, so I'll make sure to provide information on that and include it as a...
Yeah, because that's like, I think, a new kind of thing that's coming up, and there's a lot of interesting things that are happening, and Glendale might be able to take advantage of that stuff.
I'm sorry, can you give me the page number on that?
66.
Thank you.
For page 69, I think you mentioned the road diet, and it probably just needs to be updated since the City Council took action on it on the 31st in January. So it's going to go on Honolulu on June for year testing. T1E on page 69, ensure bicycle travel ways are continuous and not interrupted by freeways or on and off ramps. I hope you guys encourage the bicycle transportation plan to include that, because it's not really in that plan yet. So I'm glad it's here. I just hope they get the message too, and I'll point them to this plan for them to know as well.
Oh, okay. I was told that was being addressed in the plan.
Well, yeah. I mean, there's a lot of. I like this. I like what's in here, but it's not really in that what's being in the document, what's proposed right now. I didn't know about this complete streets that was passed in November 29. That's very. I thought I knew it was passed in the state, but I didn't realize
We passed it.
I didn't realize the City Council had already done a resolution on that, which is great.
Cool.
And that was really cool that I found that. For bus network, I was surprised that buses were not included as part of this. I mean, you have it on the next section where.
Would you be able to just refer to the number Just because there's so many in here. I
Yeah,
a
you
hard
have page 70. It's saying celebrate the bus infrastructure. On page 70, T2B, you have celebrate the bus infrastructure so riders feel proud to ride. And I like that, but before that, you don't have any mention of buses. It's all about bicycling and pedestrian stuff, but I think there's a lot more we can do as far as making our bus system more efficient, and especially working with Metro. One of the things that I was thinking about, and it might be here, I may just missed it. Is it?
There's some discussion of the bus infrastructure, and they are doing upgrades to the real-time information, and they've been upgrading bus stops and doing. That's mentioned in the introduction.
Okay.
It's kind of listed as an existing effort, but you're right. There's not a measure.
Yeah, just a recommendation, because I don't know about the Metro Rapid system is really good, and is it going through Glendale or not?
I've not seen a red one here.
Well, anyway, I think there's a lot of potential for Glendale to have a much more efficient way of moving people around, as far as with something like the Metro Rapid system that they have, but going through Glendale, which we don't have, and all the buses that we have going through the downtown area, it's all pretty much local, or it's the ones that have a million stops everywhere. So. I just wanted to throw that out there and maybe have that as a recommendation to explore some ways to make some more high or long distance buses going through Glendale that have fewer stops and more attractive, where more people would be encouraged to take the bus. I live not in the downtown area, but I live just outside of the downtown, what's considered, the downtown specific plan, but I consider that downtown. I live on California and Luis, and I think anything between, to me, anything between kind of Central, or even from Pacific all the way down to Glendale, that to me is downtown. And maybe border up all the way up top to Glen Oaks, and then come down all the way to San Fernando. All of that is like super walkable. And you can take a bus, and it's so easy to take a bus from if you live anywhere around there, and go all the way down to downtown if you work there. And I don't know if there's been a study done with, just seeing what the work patterns are from people, but I do that, and it's very easy. But I don't think a lot of people in that area think it's that easy to do. So I think having an attractive, bus service for them would be really good. And I think it should be highlighted there. And I think, actually, as part of this plan, that whole area that I just mentioned should be a really big focus. Because if we're looking in terms of getting people to walk more or getting people to use public transportation, and actually the bus thing that came up to me is because you talked about rail, getting rail infrastructure here, which is way much more of a long-term vision. But just getting people to walk more, that whole area of Glendale is really, I think, prime for that, and especially using the bus. So, anyway, I don't know. I mean, that's like a whole other thing about that. Sorry. I like to explore ban on leaf blowers. Oh yeah, and my last thing, because I have other details and I could just email them the rest to you, but on the last plan that you had, what I really liked was that commuter survey that you included because of the city of Glendale. And that was really cool because it showed how close people live to, for city employees, how close they live to the city. And it was, I think, like 25% of people live within 5 miles. And then the rest, it shows how many. And then, you know who you can target as far as, getting people to change the ways they travel. The Transportation Management Association also has data on that for all large employers.
Right.
And some of that data I think would be useful to include into this, including the city one that you included, because it gives an idea of where people are living and where people are coming from who work here.
Right.
And maybe one of the recommendations could also be, because that survey is required of employers who have more than 250 employees. And maybe one of the recommendations we can do is employers over 100 employees have to do a similar type of survey. And I would like to see a recommendation like that on here, or at least explore doing that, because I think that gives a lot of interesting information for businesses and for the city to know where their employees are coming from. And the survey is available from the Air Quality Management District that provides. They just have to do it. Yeah. And actually, we used to have a lot of employers who did that, but the law changed and it was made to be over 250. So Glendale lost a lot of data as a result. And then the Green Glendale Committee Coalition had a workshop over the summer, and it was like a 2-hour, 3-hour thing. I don't know if you had been there or not.
No, but I was aware of it. And
Yeah, and they came up with like this whole list of things that they wanted to do.
They were going to email it to me, but they...
Well, here, I got it for you.
Oh, great.
So,
Thanks.
anyway, so a lot of the things were also already included, but there's some other stuff that you can maybe get an idea. The top one was, I'll just show it to you later. But
Great.
anyway.
Thank you. I will address all of your comments.
Sure.
Get them in there.
Good job. That's it. I'll send you the rest later.
If I may, the TMA, the 200 versus 100 suggestion that was made, you definitely need to get the businesses involved. I think there was a reason why it went up to 200. I don't remember exactly what it was, whether it was the issue of enforcement or incentive. I don't know what it was, but let's look into that too.
Yeah, and I think there might be a law preventing. I think the state just changed it completely, and I don't remember the whole background. I should have looked it up before, but I forgot about it. I think the state changed it that you can't even ask employers. Yeah, you can't even ask them. They made it really strict in the law.
But
it might be good to explore that. Yeah.
Unless you incentivize it, and people do that voluntarily.
I think that's a great idea.
So,
and there are some corporations who, after the law was changed, that they still pay TMA to do the survey, even though they're not required. So maybe some type of incentive, which is a really good idea, included there where we can do this survey.
Thank you.
All right. Mr. Sheets.
Wow. Somehow, after listening to that, makes my research and review seem inadequate. That was very good. A lot of good details. I feel your passion about that. But I do have a couple comments that I'll make brief. Some thoughts that were generated just by the package. First, the package is very broad, very comprehensive. I think it's a lot of great data. It's going to allow us to track and monitor where we are. I mean, it provides us a look of where we are. It's going to allow us to monitor and track progress, enhance and improve the process, and I think that's great. It allows us to take the incremental activity that's going on and now just build on it, and I think that's a wonderful place to be. I have some thoughts. They're not criticisms, but they're kind of thoughts that came to my mind in reviewing this about other items relative to some categories that weren't mentioned in here, and you and I spoke about this a little bit previously. But one of the items is the transportation, and I think Commissioner Yasayan pretty well spoke to it. There are express metro routes in Glendale, I know, along San Fernando, and those will go all the way out in the West Valley and take you all the way downtown and beyond. So it's there, but it's woefully inadequate, because a lot of people, the buses I see when I'm waiting for the Blue Line, are packed. So it's a good thing. So I think not in this package, but in our city, transportation is a weak area, and it's an area we need to concentrate on for a lot of reasons. We want to get people to come to our places, come downtown. We want them to feel comfortable. We have parking issues and all these other things, so we really need to look into that. And one thing that came to mind relative to work I do, relative to placing light rail, brand new light rail, what we're doing is digging up streets that have tracks that were there that were taken out. And I know Glendale's the same way. I remember, I have some memories about the train tracks along Glen Oaks that went downtown Glendale, that went downtown LA, and we know in the past they went everywhere. And people did what we're trying to get them to do now. So I add that only as a fact that when we mention about the rail, maybe we need to be there someday, and it's an item that needs to be on the chart, need to be on the radar that we can look at over time. And two items that come to mind. One is the water. I think recycled water, we need to do more. I know we've done a lot compared to a lot of other cities, but we have the water here. We partner with the city of Los Angeles. We've done a lot of secondary water systems, but we just need to do more. I think if we could bring the developers into the process, if we haven't already, let them think for us. Let them bring some ideas and give them credit for that, because I hate to drive by the freeway and watch all that water being recycled and go down the LA River. That's money in the bank, and we know how difficult it is with our water situation. And then one last item that I think is, in most people's minds, it's pie in the sky, but I think it's something that is so important that we're going to have to deal with this one way or the other. And I think the package touches base on the recycling and all the things we try to do with waste, but we're going to continue to have waste. We're going to run out of places to put the waste, and the cost that we may incur in the near future to send waste elsewhere is going to be extreme. We're going to have no place else to put it. And I'm not technically savvy as I should be, but there are a lot of systems throughout the world that do a waste to energy process of all kinds. And there's there's good and bad thoughts about that whole process, but there is a process being implemented now of a train system to take all of the city's trash, of which we will have to partner with at some point because we're going to run out of room to dump it, and take it down to the desert down south, and that's going to be a great cost, and it's going to be terrible on the environment. So I know that isn't what your package is about, but I think it's something that you need to put on the radar, and even at a time when economically it's something we really can't visualize, but I think that's a good time to put it on the chart, to put it on the radar, and as we go forward, we can benefit from new technologies, timing's in our favor, we can start to implement things and look for other programs to mirror and such. So, and that's all I have. With that, if there are no other comments.
Actually, speaking about waste, I just remembered something else that I thought was really important that I didn't see in the plan, was figuring out a way to get recycling available to apartment tenants. And
the mandatory commercial recycling regulation is going into effect, and that will apply to multifamily residential buildings.
oh, is that so? That's going to be they're going to have a recycling bin, or how does that work?
My understanding is that they will collect all the garbage and sort it at a center.
Okay, so it's still going to be a big dump, and then the tenants will.
The tenants aren't going to sort the recycling.
Right, and then they
It'll
sort
be
it
sorted
later.
at a facility.
Oh, that's great. Is that a city policy or
It's a
county?
state regulation, and we're on track for being in compliance with it.
Oh, great.
I don't want to get into the details because I'm not confident that I
Yeah.
could give you the details accurately enough, but that mandatory recycling ordinance is going into effect, and we are on track to be in compliance.
Well, that's great. Maybe it could just be explained in the plan. Since or maybe it is. Maybe I missed it.
There actually is discussion of the waste efforts. Let me see.
It's right after urban design.
Oh, here, well, it says,
There's 40.
at the top of page 40, it has a quick mention. California's AB 341 establishes mandatory commercial and multifamily recycling, which will be implemented in the near future and will include composting of organics.
That's great.
And I know I have some knowledge about how they're kind of pursuing this, but I don't want to give the details because I'm not confident enough that it's...
Well, and you do have a strategy on page 44, strategy WS3A is implement mandatory commercial recycling.
I believe it includes an anaerobic digesting facility and a recycling facility that will sort all of the garbage to pull out the recyclables and the compostables.
That's great.
All right. I do have a few comments. I would like to echo Commissioners, historians' comments. I was very impressed. I started reading it. I was prepared to do my, typical, this is left out, and I was like, this is in here. And I was just really pleased, and kudos. I think you've done a great job. And it's not one of those reports that we've gotten that's off some template and Glendale facts and figures are put in willy-nilly. It's really, really very well done and extremely comprehensive. However, the table of contents is not correct. The lettering and numbering system is not right. I just might recommend that waste is not... Oh, well, maybe it is. I think there's one off or something somewhere around there.
And you do have the most recent version?
What I got in here, but that's all right. It was sent to
okay.
me by you, so I am trusting you. So I may be
I will
wrong.
look at that.
Just check that out. What I would like to say is there is some community business schools and hospitals that are actually highlighted on page 22 that you put in there of how the community is proactively responding without any other incentive outside of it's the right thing to do, and I just think that that's marvelous that we're giving them credit and calling that out. Bravo to them for being great community members. I would like to talk about the urban design section on 31. In urban design, and I know there's another area that we have where we covered the parks and open space, but it says at the very top, urban design covers the arrangement and design of buildings, public spaces, and other components that make up urban space. And one of the areas that I thought might be included, because we do have some duplication of inclusion here, is to protect the city's urban forest canopy, parks, and open spaces, because they are really integral to a very successful urban space and fabric. And to me, I think this should be in here also as part of dealing with the sustainability of this being a thriving and vital urban environment. And I would just recommend that be included in this section also.
In addition to urban nature section?
Yes, because the urban nature section almost begs to be our wildlife interface as opposed to our urban core of forest and parks. So I think they're very different kind of environments. Hopefully we don't have mountain lions in our Chevy Chase Park, but we might. But we do have it up in Duke-Majan. So I see them as very different spaces. But, I mean, that I would just like to encourage that you consider that. I have these dog-eared, please forgive me. In urban nature, which is different in my idea, is I have also either here or there. What I don't see is I see us taking a really great move toward adding trees and adding canopy, but not protecting our existing canopy. And it's a very difficult thing to replace at the growth rate of trees. So one of the things that I think the City of Los Angeles failed to do that we can probably learn from is they made a great drive to add trees to the fabric, but they didn't do anything to protect the existing canopy. So to me, what I think would be very important is to maybe provide incentives for canopy and retention so that new tree plantings increase the canopy by a certain percentage by 2035, so that you can balance adding new trees to protecting the existing and keeping our trees healthy and producing the oxygen that they are. Just a suggestion. I think that it's a valuable resource that we sometimes forget we are husbanding.
Just to clarify, are you suggesting providing incentives to the community members to care for the trees that they're responsible for?
Indeed.
That could be part of it.
Yes. And there are many cities that just punish you if you take a tree down. And we're one of them, but but there are also incentives so that if you have a certain amount of tree coverage to maintain that tree canopy, you can get other incentives for development that will allow you to, I consider that kind of a cap and trade idea that gives you a land use incentive to maintain the canopy at the same time to allow you to develop your property. I think that's a smart way of dealing with protecting what we have and looking at creative ways to be a sustainable community. Just a thought. I know that some people are probably rolling over in their chairs at the moment. But last, one of the other things, and I'm so glad that Commissioner Usain brought up the pervious pavement, but I do think that reducing impervious areas, very large impervious areas that are there, and incentivizing putting in, a pervious concrete or pavers, such as we talked about when we were looking at the brand auto areas where they have very large, massive areas of paving that are impervious, and how can we incentivize that so that both the needs of the cities recharging the aquifer is taken care of. So this seems like a really nice area to put that in and look at that too. And lastly, I think when we were talking about celebrating the bus, I thought that was great. I was thinking party buses. No, I know that's not what you meant, but it might get more people on that bus.
That language came from a community comment.
But in that vein of party buses, the city of LA has really been very successful with Ciclavia. And I think that I've been in Portland where there's a really wonderful Bike the Bridges. I think it would be really great if we embraced a bicycle celebration day in which we did close down the streets and encouraged people and kids to bicycle and really celebrated bicycles and
walking.
The city and teaching about bicycles and walking. And I think that would be a marvelous thing to look at adding to our transportation plan.
Much like the cruise night.
Very much like cruise night. Except for you're cruising on your two-wheeler with your own power.
Still cruising, though.
You're still cruising. I would just like to summarize the commissioner's thoughts that this is a great product. You've done a great job. And
if I may, Madam Chair, Cassandra, the point that Chair Landrigan made about protection of your existing green canopy, I think this goes beyond, for example, the oak groves and what is protected in the ordinance. This is anything and everything that is called a tree, because ultimately that reduces your greenhouse effect. And that is not only for the residential areas, if we do have them in commercial areas, so long as, again, when the businesses are involved, because I know, look, to me, the carrot and the stick does play a role. It's the carrot that makes me run. Is that right? Is that the way it's supposed to be? The carrot makes you run? So, the stick? No. Not the stick doesn't make me run, no. It may, but let's put it this way. I prefer the carrot. And I'm positive that businesses do the same. And so that's a great thought, and I think that's something that needs to be looked into it a little bit with minds that are like hers, that understand what greenery means and what landscaping means and so forth. So,
Thank you.
Any other comments from our commissioners? Well, thank you very much, Cassandra. So we need to make a motion.
I recommend. Actually, Mr. Yasayan, would you like to
Make the recommendation?
make a recommendation? Sorry to do that to you. I just pretty passionate.
I move to recommend to the City Council approval of the Greener Glendale Plan for community activities.
I second. If we need a second.
May we please have roll call?
Planning Commissioners Astorian,
with the carrot, yes.
Lee,
Aye.
Sheets,
Aye.
Yasayan,
Aye.
Chairperson Landrigan.
Aye. Thank you. That's approved 5-1 to recommend to the council that this be approved and implemented when we get the money.
I just want to thank you for all your comments, by the way. I'm going to get busy on them.
All right. Thank you. Do we have any community development department updates?
We do have the appeal of your decision on Hasbeth Lane going to City Council on March 6th.
How exciting.
So just to give you an update on that.
Is any commissioner going to be going there?
We would request that your chairperson, Commissioner Landrigan, be there.
Was that a full... I don't remember how we ruled on that.
You upheld the planning hearing officer's decision.
Was that unanimous among us?
I don't believe it was unanimous. I believe we had an abstention.
Oh.
I believe it was 4 and 1 abstention.
It comes against it.
Support.
I believe Commissioner Sheets abstained or voted against
I
it,
think
one
I
or the other.
opposed it. Yeah.
And the other 4 voted for it. But there was discussion that if we were to go what was proposed the first time around, we would be changing the nature of the development or what was in front of us, and so that's where we were stopped in our tracks. So,
Well, I will be at the council meeting to represent so I'll review it. Thank you, Laura. Any comments on items from the commission? Mr. Sheets, you don't want to remind us about the Verdugo hike in May, or shall we wait?
Let's wait. I don't want to inundate him too soon. I
All
want
right.
to kind of build up to it.
Well,
Anticipation.
I did send that, yeah.
our next
Here.
meeting is going to be March 7th. If there is no other business,
Move
shall
that
we
we adjourn.
adjourn?
Move that we
Ask for a
adjourn.
motion? Thank you.